to the book of Proverbs. We're going to be there in a moment. Go ahead with the picture there, will you? There you go. There you go. My family was all upset because I didn't announce the arrival of Zoe Jane Clark. But we grandparents don't like to brag, so I decided to wait. And then I have this picture that I can show you, and I have plenty more. They will come home, I think, tomorrow. And Zoe Jane Clark. Now, for those of us who have for a while taken a vitamin supplement, my sister-in-law said, you cannot nickname her Zija. I said, okay, we'll find something else, I suppose. But anyway, let's see. I know you're wanting to know. 6'10", 19 and a quarter. There you go. I texted that very thing to Austin. He texted me back, what do these numbers mean? Maybe one day he'll find out. I don't know. So anyway, there you go. So we could just spend the rest of the time talking about that if you'd like. Be glad to answer questions, tell you about feelings and those kinds of things. Someone has already told me, and I think they're probably right, the grandson will be attached to your hip and your granddaughter will be wrapped around your finger. That's a pretty good analogy. I think that's right. Some of you can probably answer to that, and some of you don't even have enough hips and fingers to cover all of them, so maybe one day. All right, book of Proverbs. Let's go there. We're going to study in a minute. A little Bible study on respect. This morning, this is our fourth Sunday, Family Sunday, and as we do on that day in the morning, we have a textual discussion more about the concept, and then at nighttime we do a little practical thing. Now, how do we put this into practice? What are we going to do? Particularly tonight, how do we teach respect in our homes? 1967, Aretha Franklin, in February, wrote and sang the song that became her most famous tune. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Find out what that means to me. Well, that's the concept here. God wants us to be people of respect. Not only does He want us to find out what it means to Him, but we need to find out what it means in our relationships in life and therefore be able to know how to teach it respect. We had a very practical example of respect this afternoon. It was a great example because it allowed me to continue to wear the jacket with pride, right? Someone had already commented. In fact, I can't believe Tim Ross. He said, did you wear that jacket this morning? I said, are you kidding me? You're the only person in the building who didn't even know I had it on. I stood here the whole time. And then I said, oh, I know what it was. I had it hanging up this afternoon, charging again, and that's why he was able to see it. So I got it all charged up. But, you know, the respect happened right there, right? Two things were happening in that ball game. Wichita State should never have been a number one seed because they never played anybody all year. They don't deserve to be there. Kentucky, bunch of freshmen. They don't deserve to be there because haven't shown anything. They've not beaten anybody of consequence. And what happened? Both teams got respect. Everybody knows that Wichita State was real. They were real. I really thought Kentucky could beat them worse than that, but they were real. But then we also learned that the pundits are going to have to deal with Kentucky now. They're going to have to say, okay, all right, maybe they're a little better than we thought. It happened this afternoon. Now, let's take this concept of respect and let's see how we can teach it at home. As we noticed this morning, it's extremely important. A Christian home is respectful, and therefore one of the jobs that we have in our homes is to teach our children to learn what it means to be respectful. Let's think about that. How do we do it? Number one, we should remember to be respectful using times of honor that have already been established for us. In order to learn to be or to teach respect, we have to remember to teach it. Remember it. Well, we have opportunities all year long, right? We have Father's Day and Mother's Day and Grandparents' Day. And I didn't even know until just a few years ago that there's actually an International Children's Day. So we have opportunities. There's President's Day. I mean, we could have all kinds of days that are already on the calendar, that in our homes we could bring out and we could say, how about it's Veterans Day? Let's show respect, you see? So the idea is that when we have opportunities right there already set in the calendar, it would be a great idea to take advantage of them. Turn with me to the book of Proverbs. Let's notice how the Proverbs writer said something about that. Look at chapter 16 and verse number 31. Notice what he said. The silver-haired head is a crown of glory if it is found in the way of righteousness. Look at chapter 20 and verse 29. The glory of young men is their strength. The splendor of old men is their gray head. We need to remember to understand or remember to show the respect. There are times that a child, whatever that definition to you is, but a child will say, hey, Mike. And I'll hear a parent say, no, that's Mr. Mike. Well, I understand what they're doing. It didn't bother me if they say, hey, Mike, to be honest with you, that's pretty good. Because when you start getting to Mr. Mike, and then it sort of begins to get older than that. When they still want to call you by the first name, you're relating pretty well, it seems like. But I know what those parents are saying. I know those parents are saying, wait a minute. Remember to be respectful. Let us take advantage of opportunities that are already there, right in front of us. Don't just treat them as maybe another day on the calendar, but use it as a way to say, all right, we're going to remember to be respectful. E. Establish early that you expect your children to show respect. Chapter 13, verse 24. There's that passage. Not stated exactly the way we state it, but here's what it says. He who spares his rod hates his son. He who loves him disciplines him promptly. Look at chapter 29 and verse 17. Chapter 29, verse 17. Correct your son, he will give you rest. Yes, he will give delight to your soul. There are times when I have noticed, you have noticed, that parents have let children go so long being disrespectful that it's hard to bring them back, right? You've noticed that. In fact, you've probably been highly upset. You wanted to step in and do it yourself, didn't you? You start early. You start and establish it from the very beginning. You expect them to be respectful. It amazes me. It really does. It amazes me the number of things that parents will not compromise about. We have to do it, and I'll make you do it to the day you die. Brush your teeth. Eat your food. Take a bath. But we don't sometimes least some parents seem to say, you be respectful. Don't you talk like that to somebody. Start early. Establish in your home that you expect them to be respectful. Number 3, study what other people have said about respect. Look at chapter 1. Look at verse 8. Here's what this Proverbs writer said to his son. My son, hear the instruction of your father. Do not forsake the teaching of your mother. Look at chapter 6, verse 20. My son, keep your father's command. Do not forsake the law of your mother. Study what others have said about respect. I think it would be a very good thing. It would be if you're looking for Bible study material with children. One thing might be to look at the relationships in Scripture where respect was a necessary part, and show how these people respected each other and how they learned to show respect. And number 2, think about and study what others say about respect. Have you ever just asked someone, why is respect so important? Why is it so necessary? Why do people want to be respected? Maybe take a little survey, a little poll, and ask, why? Maybe in your family, maybe you ask every one of the children, tell me, why should I respect you? Why do you want to be respected? And then you say, here's why I want to be respected. Here's why I think about it. When you study what other people say about it, you are teaching them to be respectful. Proverbs. Back to Proverbs. Chapter 28 and verse 27. Chapter 28, verse 27. He who gives to the poor will not lack, but he who hides his eyes will have many curses. Plan opportunities to put respect into practice. Sure, we have all of these days that sort of relate tangentially to respect, but wouldn't it be a great idea to sit down with the children and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. And we're going to plan this event where we can show respect to someone for something. We had what I would call our first annual, as you know, March Madness Family Competition Night this past week. It was fun. We had a great time up here. And as we ended, I said, all right, here's what we're going to do next. Very soon, we're going to try to get together maybe on a Saturday morning and find some service projects that we can do for people in this church and help them get the springtime moving. We have things around the yard that we need to get done and things that might need to be done in the house. And we're just going to ask some people, can we come and work with you? That shows respect. Not only just service, but it shows respect. And so we're going to train these children. You set up and you plan a time. And with parents, you plan a time and say, we're going to do this and teach you to respect other people. I think it's interesting that the Proverbs writer wrote about the poor. You know, when he says that the poor, you need to look at them and give to them so you won't lack. I think when we are respectful of other people and practice it and put it into practice, plan for these events, what do we receive in return? We fill up our reserve of learning how to be respectful. And that's what lasts an entire lifetime. So, plan those things and establish that situation in your life. Chapter 20, verse 11. Chapter 20, verse 11. Encourage your children on their own to do things that are respectful. You know, if you take advantage of these holidays that are already there, and then if you plan some things on your own, then at the same time, you encourage them. Now, I'm not going to get involved, but you do something. Look at chapter 20, verse 11. Even a child is known by his deeds, whether what he does is pure and right. Now, all of a sudden, we've gone from this very general thing of just using these holidays that will help. Now, we have, as a family, we've planned an event or two, and now you, on your own, you just be respectful. And these children, in that environment and in that encouragement, will be respectful. Encourage them on their own. Next, you create in your homes the environment of respect by being respectful yourself. Look at chapter 12 and verse 4. A couple of things. An excellent wife is the crown of her husband, but she who causes shame is like rottenness in his bones. Look at chapter 25 and verse 17. This is an interesting one. Don't know that I had encountered this one before. Here's what it says. Seldom set foot in your neighbor's house, lest he become weary of you and hate you. Now, the wise man was not saying, don't be neighborly. It's not what he's saying. What's he saying? You respect the boundaries of your neighbor's life. That is, not avoid him, but be sure that you don't disrespect by being there constantly and all the time and in their face and always around, and they never can get anything done or have peace or whatever because we're always there. You know people who are always in your face, you just can't get away. Sometimes that's just a lack of respect. We have to remember, not everybody is comfortable the closer you get to them. You notice that? Now, I'm not as good at it as Jack is, but I like to hug. You know, Jack taught me how to hug, but I'm not as good at it as he is. But I've noticed this. I'll walk up to somebody to give them a hug, and while I'm doing this, they're doing this. Now, what does that mean? That means I ain't hugging you no more. That means I'll get right up to you, and we'll talk. But it's obvious that you're not comfortable. I think that's what this verse means. Why would I continue to throw myself in someone's space if they don't want me there? It's not that they don't want me around. It's not that they don't want to be nice. It's not that they don't want me to speak to them. It's that they want me to respect their comfort zone. Well, that's what this verse is about. It's not about don't being neighborly. It's about respecting the comfort zone of your neighbor. But the whole point is this: as parents, we create the environment of respect by being respectful. And you know what that also means? Respect your children. You know, we said this morning, everybody deserves respect. Doesn't matter who you are. Even if you're the worst person in the world, you were made by God, and I respect you enough that I want you to be saved. See? You're the worst scoundrel. Think of the worst criminal you can think of that's ever lived, and I should want that person to be saved. I respect them that much. They were made in the image of God. Here's the idea. You need to respect your children because children know, they know the difference between discipline in respect and discipline in harsh anger. They know. And if you establish an environment of respect, you can discipline. You know why? Because that's what children want. They want to know the boundaries. They want to know what the boundaries are, because that's where they gain their security. Parents' job to set the boundaries. Children's job to push against the boundaries. That's the job. You respect them by setting them. You respect them by holding to them. And they will learn to be respectful. Finally, the letter T. Here it is. You take advantage of teachable moments. Look at chapter 15. Look at verse 20. A wise son makes a father glad, but a foolish man despises his mother. Look at chapter 17, verse 5. He who mocks the poor reproaches his maker. He who is glad at calamity will not go unpunished. Chapter 19, verse 27. Cease listening to instruction, my son, and you will stray from the words of knowledge. There are teachable moments. You see somebody who is not dressed as well, obviously poor, obviously in need, and your child begins to make fun of that person. Oh, that's a teachable moment. No, don't you do that. Don't you do that. They're involved in some trouble. We can help them, but don't you make fun of them. Don't you criticize them. There are all kinds of teachable moments. And when we take advantage of those teachable moments, we will teach respect. And after all, we want our children to be healthy. We want them to be successful. We want them to do well. And if they learn to be respectful, they will go far in life. Because respect, when people know you are respectful, they will overlook some other deficiencies and train you in those deficiencies because you respect them. But you can be the most trained person with no respect, and they can't train you to respect. That's our job as parents. I know on the outline there was a point 1 and a point 2. I want to finish with point 1 instead. Here's what I want us to understand. I don't have any choice but to respect every position that God has created. I have no choice. None at all. I respect every government official. You know why? Because God created government. And I respect the office. I respect the position. I should respect the positions within households of father and mother and children. I should respect teachers. I should respect people in authority. Because why? God created authority. But, while I am respecting the position because God made it, I respect the person because that person creates respect in his or her own life. Here's my point. As we talk about teaching our children respect, we teach them to respect positions that God has created. And we help them understand to respect the people who create a respectful environment. Therefore, I must be respectful so that people will respect me. Well, I hope that's been helpful, practical, understandable as we try to develop and maintain respect within our homes. And I'll know this, as we train it within our homes, the beneficiaries will be our communities and our church. So let's work on that. Let's continue to do that. And by and large, you know, I think we have some wonderfully respectful children. I enjoy being around them. We do some fun things, and the night we had that game thing up here, we had all kinds of ages, and they were extremely respectful. Very good. That didn't mean they did everything right at every moment, but they were very respectful. One older girl just tore up something we were doing. I'm not going to call the name. She knows who it is. She was fooling around, you know. But they were very respectful. We have a great group of respectful children, I think taught by their parents. Tonight, if you respect the Lord enough to give your life to Him finally, to be brought into the family through baptism, or back to the family through prayer and forgiveness, we sing now for your encouragement. Let us stand.